streaming live into, I had a description here, at Get a Clue in 52, tip number 16. All right. Okay. All right. Everything's getting set up here. Perfect. Let's go ahead and start the live video. Turn that baby around. All right. Hello, Facebook people. If you're out there with me on the Facebook side, welcome to another installment of Get a Clue in 52. 8 o'clock straight up right now. So right now I'm flying solo on the Zoom side. That's a little bit rare, but we'll see if anybody else chimes in. But this is another installment of Get a Clue in 52. Let's see here. What did I want to do? There we go. We want to mute and play. That's good. Okay. All right. So every Sunday night I come on board and I read one tip from the book. There's 52. There's 5 categories. Communication. Right now, we're in marketing. Then we're going to go into networking, then sales, then accountability. Hello to Charlie, who's joining me on Zoom. Predictably, it's nice to see you, young man. We'll open it up for group interaction in just a moment. So yeah, I originally wrote this book in 2019, but last year, 2020, I decided I wanted to come on and build a Facebook group around the group, the community, and then come on to Zoom and live stream it into that group. And I got through the entire book, and I saw all kinds of things that were worthy of cleaning up, including like thinking about reordering the contents, switching the order with which the sections were offered. Not the tips within the sections, but just ordering of the sections. So last year I finished it, the second edition of Get a Clue in 52, and I've decided to come on again. But this year I'm streaming into YouTube. So by the end of this year, I'll have 52 Sunday night videos populating into YouTube in addition to the 52 videos that are on the Facebook side. And it's just, it's something nice to do on a Sunday night. It gets me thinking about the week. It has my mind spinning a little bit and maybe mind feed. For those of you that are following on social media, Charlie, I know, who we'll hear from later on, always describes it as Monday morning mind feed for him as he's in South Africa and it's Monday morning for him. So I'm really grateful, Charlie, and anybody else that's taking time away from whatever you could be doing, that you're here right now. We want to make sure that this is valuable. Let me say hello to Gino out there on the Facebook side. I see you, man. It's good to see you always. Former student from San Diego City College, way back. And I never know who's going to show up, whether you're a former student of mine, whether you're a self-generated client from Get a Clue, whether you're an assignment of mine from the Coach Jeffrey brand, whether it was from the iCoaching and consulting community or any of the other white label contracts that I have where Coach Jeffrey gets assignments for other organizations. You could be coming from anywhere, and I'm grateful that you're here. So let's go ahead and get into it. It's going to take me a while to finish reading all of the dedications that I have in the book, but I definitely want to start there. And I think last week, I think it was ironic coming off of my birthday week. I got to spend so many days in a row with my brother that I think it was to Dave, that we read the dedication. I quite honestly, I forget. I don't know. Patty, do you remember? Did I read the one to Dr. T-Bone last week? Do you remember? Does that seem familiar?
You read that 2 weeks ago, I think.
To Dr. T-Bone? Really? Well, I know that I haven't read tonight, so we'll just go with it. AJ, right? And just in case I didn't read the Dr. T-Bone one, I'm going to read it now. To Dr. T-Bone, oh, doctor, what a huge burden it can be to mean so much to another human being. Thanks for willingly sharing that burden with me. Hashtag Cluebone, which is a combination of me and Dr. T-Bone when we get together to create things. All right, and tonight's dedication, I hope my oldest son somewhere in the house is listening. Here we go. To AJ, the first edition of this book came out at a time in your life where it seemed you were getting it. As you transitioned from middle school to high school, we saw so many of the right habits, perspectives, and decisions from you. You are a sophomore as this second edition comes out, and I couldn't be prouder of what you accomplished as a freshman. I know you are destined for your own versions of greatness. Keep working hard, keep getting good grades, stay committed to making others better, and your greatness is assured. I love you. All right. We have 3 more dedications left, but there we go. There's that. And so like I said at the beginning, we started this year in the communication section. We read 10 tips there in the communication section, and now we're in the marketing section. And we're not just in the marketing section. But tonight is tip number 16 overall, number 6 from the marketing section. So if I can, I'd like to just do a quick review of the first 5 tips from the marketing section. Then I'll read tip 6, and then we'll pivot into group conversation. All right. So first of all, tip number 1 was kind of like a survey tip or a overview tip. Is basically know what you need to know, then know it. So I created a bullet point, a list of 11 bullets that represent the things that I think a good marketer will want to know, or a marketer that wants to get better at marketing will strive to know. It's also really good for the 80-20 rule. Like, pick 2 things on that list that are going to have a bigger impact than all the other 9 combined, and make an effort to get better at those things. And it's a preview for, of course, the following 11 tips in the section of the book. But tip number 1, know what you need to know, then know it. So then tip number 2 was know your ideal customer. We talked about demographics and psychographics and buyer avatar or a buyer persona, and really, really getting into depth on an ability to describe the buyer, the prospect, the ideal client. It's really important. Tip number 3 from the marketing section was to know your competition. What are they doing? And do you want to do it also? Do you want to do it better than how they're doing it? What are you doing that they're not doing? What are they doing that you're not doing? All right. Like, it's really important to know what the competition is doing, in case you want to do something different, do something better. Differentiation. We always have to answer the question, why do people buy from us instead of others? And not just buy from, but why would somebody invest in us instead of somebody else they could invest in? Why would somebody hire us, promote us, give us more responsibility and compensation than somebody else that could receive those things? We have to have differentiation and competitive advantage as individuals, as companies, as organizations, as products and services. All of those things need their differentiation. Tip number 4 then was to know the conditions. Where does marketing take place? What's the socioeconomic, sociopolitical climate? What is the state of affairs? What's happening technologically? What's happening in the regulatory space? What's happening around the world in the international space? What's happening in research and development and science? And how do those things affect what you're trying to do from a marketing perspective? All marketing takes place in space. So the more you know about the space, the better messages you'll put in to space. And then last week, very brief tip. Thank God, because I was coming off the golf course. I had a bunch of beers celebrating my birthday. I got to play 54 holes of golf last week, 18 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday with a different crew each time, although my brother was with me in all three rounds. It's just really, really, really good. So thank God last week was a brief tip, but it was know the issues, right? So issue is kind of like the coin. A coin has a heads and a tails. So same thing. Issue has problem and opportunity, pleasure and pain. Every issue, there's potential for problem or pain or discomfort, but there's also the possibility for solution, resolution, solving, right? Resolving the issues. So it's not enough to just know your customer, but what hurts them? What pain are they in? What pleasure do they seek? And what do they believe is in the way? What issues are they grappling with? What are the barriers to resolving those issues? And how do you or your products or your services address the barriers and help people resolve issues? So that gets us to tonight. All right, 8:08 p.m. And we're on page 49 now. If you're following along, get a clue in 52. Tip number 16 overall, but 6 from the marketing section. Let me go ahead and read word for word. Here we go. A reminder here that these tips are not in any order of importance because they would all have an argument to be listed higher. This is super true with know your stuff. By the way, tip number 6 is know your stuff. Super true with know your stuff, because I believe you gotta believe in your stuff to have success telling others about it. There's more to knowing your stuff than just believing, but it still starts there. Imagine knowing for a fact that everyone that does not buy your products and services is worse off than those that do buy. Imagine knowing for a fact that your products and services do everything you say they do and more. Imagine knowing for a fact that everyone who buys from you will believe they got way more value than what they paid or invested in. When you have that knowledge that you are selling something amazing, your excitement, creativity, and commitment to telling the world about it is supercharged. So one aspect of this tip is to believe in your stuff, to know that it will work and be valued by your customer above its cost or investment. The other aspect of this tip is to know the inner workings, details, and features of what you are selling. As we have covered in other tips, it's one thing to know the customer, another thing to know the competition, another thing to know the market conditions, and still another to know the issues your customer is facing. It is yet another it is yet another thing entirely to have intimate knowledge of the product or service you are selling. Ideally, you know exactly what the customer will get, experience, feel when interacting with your products and services. When you know your stuff that well, you are bound to have more options on how to effectively communicate to your prospects. All right, so that's it for the word for word piece. I'm going to open it up for Charlie and Patty. I actually have more to say about this tip, but let's open it up and let me acknowledge Charlie and Patty. Let me do the rigmarole where I get your volume going. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. Here we go. And let's and testing 1, 2. All right.
Good one. We can hear you. We can hear you, Coach.
All right. Fantastic. Thanks, guys. So what do you guys think about know your stuff?
Well, I can see why you say that they could all be fighting for who's the most important tip, right?
Yeah. I mean, that really goes back to everybody is like consuming this content or hearing this content or watching this video at a different place in their marketing journey. So some of these tips are going to be really important to some people and not as important to others. So it's important that everybody finds the tip that is most important for them. All right. So it's important to state that, now that we're 5, 6 tips in, like, hey, these aren't in any order of importance, but it makes sense to start with knowing the customer, knowing the issues, knowing the competition, etc. The other thing real quick that I wanted to say about this tip is that I'm making the point, like, number one, I'm making the point, like, believe in your stuff, believe that your stuff will work, right? But also know the features, know if the little thingy is on the left side or the right side, know what kind of components, or does this make sense? Like the technical specifications of the features. Now, I encourage everybody to know as much about their products and services as possible, but that's not the same thing as always tell that stuff, always lead with that stuff. You need to know it and be ready when it's appropriate. But the person that's selling totally on features is going to miss the boat. You have to only explain the features that resolve an issue for your customer, that speak to the customer's listening, right? So if I'm selling a car, I may know what kind of leather the seats are. I may know what type of metal the engine is made out of. I may know, how many valves and switches and solenoids. I may know a list of the manufacturers that combined in providing materials for the car. I may know which distributor the tires came in through. I may know, who made the application specific integrated circuit that goes in the computer for the motherboard for the, what. Are you guys with me on this? But I that doesn't mean that just because I know all of that doesn't mean that I should include it in my marketing or my sales. I should only offer that information when I know it's critical to resolving the issues of the customer. So while you need to know all your stuff, that's not the same thing as always communicate all of that knowledge unless you've pre-qualified first that it's really important to the buyer or the prospect. All right. So having said that, what else? Do you guys have any thoughts or questions about tonight's tip? By the way, thanks for joining, Patty and Charlie. I really appreciate you guys.
Thank you, Coach Jeff. You're welcome. It's always an honor and a pleasure to be here. Sorry I missed last week, and a belated happy birthday to you.
Thank you so much.
Yes, you guys, I watched the replay. You guys had quite a bit of fun.
Well, when I'm clubricated,
Clubricated and all.
I disclosed, I said in advance, I will show up. The show always goes on. And it's kind of fun for me to see how clubricated I can get and still be able to read word for word and entertain a conversation. So I hope I did all right. But
No,
anyway,
you did pretty well.
what do you got for us tonight, Charlie?
Comment, kind of question as well. The knowing your stuff, and as you just with the example you gave, is when selling your product or service, is to limit it to the bare essentials of the need and also the pain point. By diagnosing what the need is, you then can get, by asking all those questions, you can then know what the features, if the features are important to the client.
Yes, you have the benefit of having been with us all year last year, and you know the questions that I recommend asking when they're coming up in the networking section.
Yes,
Right.
networking,
So,
sales, basically they interlace. Yeah.
Well, there's a space, right? There's this, like, first of all, I like to consider it a continuum, right? Where first of all,
Yeah.
there's John Doe, and John Doe doesn't know who we are, and we don't know who John Doe is. Then all of a sudden we get the name, a phone number, and an email from somebody that takes them from unknown to a lead. Then once we find a way to let them know that we're selling something, now they become a prospect, especially if they remain interested in more dialogue. That's when it's kind of transitioning from marketing to sales. If a prospect is interested in more dialogue, now it's the job of the salesperson to find out what the real issues are and then only speak to those issues to the degree that they can, and not necessarily bare essentials. You may lay it on thick if you're speaking to the right issue. You follow?
Yeah, yeah. So from a marketing perspective, we've also spoken about in previous tips, the demographic, the competition, what the conditions are. So the message that you send to your target market, would the message be more detailed in indicating to what the need would be or what the pain point would be? Is translating that message, and on inquiry is be able to relate that you know the stuff by means of answering the questions on, for example, what is it that you do? So and I'll use the example of a vehicle, maybe as a workshop or a mechanic, and you advertising service and tune-up or whatever it may be. And then I would ask you or message you and says, do you work on Hondas? And then, yes, you do work on Hondas. And yes, my Honda has got this, that problem. Then you expand on it in giving yours, again, another term that I learned, on your SME, your subject matter expertise. So you would then be able to relate to them what the cause of the problem would be, and knowing your stuff per se, as you mentioned.
Well, I mean, if I'm hearing the question, the simple answer is of course.
Yeah.
Right? You know, it's you're almost like, it's almost rhetorical, the question. Of course, you know, if you're doing a good job listening and you're speaking to that listening, you know, what I want people to guard against is this. Like, if somebody calls and says, hey, do you work on Hondas? Okay. And I say, yeah. And then I list my technical specifications about Hondas, right?
Yeah.
Okay. But really, I'm talking, I didn't get their next question. Their next question might be, how long does it take to get the service and cleanup, right?
Yeah.
Did you work on Hondas? How long did it take? And I say, oh yeah, boy, do we work on Hondas? You know, so here's the thing: the person's issue may be, I need to get in and out really quickly.
Yeah.
But now the person, you know, what I'm asking somebody to avoid is, don't tell the person everything that you know about Hondas and all the special bells and whistles and features, things that you do to Honda. You gotta, you know what I'm saying? But that's it. That's in a sales conversation or an order taking conversation, right? Just to clue in, and let me say hello. Hi, Jessica. I see you watching, and Gino, I hope you're still with us. Anybody else that's on the Facebook side, I want to say hello to everybody that I see scrolling through. Yeah, it's just a no-brainer, obvious deal, right? That the more awareness of issues you build into your marketing messages, the better off you're going to be. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just that's an obvious yes. So I'm not sure that
Got
I
you.
understand your question beyond that, but if I understand your question, the answer is yes.
Yeah. So in essence is getting the message that you do also repair or work on Hondas without giving the technical jargon that goes with it, which will then follow on with what the requirements of the prospect is at the time of questioning.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, have you ever received a marketing message that that confused you, or that like they don't really know what I'm going through? They don't really know what this is all about.
Oh,
Right? Have you ever been in,
you
or have you
can,
ever followed up on a marketing message to ask a question about a product or service, and the person says, "Well, hang on, let me find out. I'll get back to you," or "I don't know," or they BS it,
mhm,
right?
countless times you
Right.
get an
So
email message and oh, you like lost. What are
yeah,
they on about?
yeah. So maybe this tip is better for the sales section than the marketing section, but I do believe that knowledge of my products and services, knowledge of the features, how it works, how do people interact with it, how is it delivered, what do people get when they buy from me, how does that make people feel, what's the experience that they have, like the degree to which you can, it's like we all love the movies where we don't know how it's going to end, but we still all watch movies where we know exactly how it's going to end. We like to be oriented, ushered along. We like to have signposting or previews, like, hey, here's what's going to happen. A confused mind doesn't buy. An uncertain mind doesn't buy. So when you're marketing, you're trying to put people in a buying position. And if their last question before they buy is a question you don't have the answer to, you're screwed, right? So
Yeah,
I'm just saying very simply, number one, get to this place where you believe. Imagine being as sure as you are that the sun's coming up tomorrow, that when people buy from you, they will get more value than what they paid, and that your stuff works.
yeah,
And that's number one. And then number two, be able to describe how it works and know the intimate features, processes, details, and the intricacies of what people experience when they actually buy, so that you can preview it for them and help them through that process. So this is a tip that flirts with belonging in sales, but I've kept it in marketing for a reason.
got you, got you. Thank you, Coach Jeff.
Patty, what do you got? You got anything? Any comments or questions?
Nothing really coming to mind except that when you talk about the benefits of your program, I mean, you have to know it as your customers have experienced it,
Ideally,
right?
yeah.
And that it, you know, that's a challenge, I think, for some types of services that get offered.
Yeah, well, when you're talking about services instead of products, yeah, I would recommend, it's not a tip in the book, but I recommend having a good exit interview, or, a survey system that allows you to collect the customer experience. It'd be great if you just hit 1,000% and everything was perfect and 100% of your customers gave you beautiful testimonials and told you exactly what was going on. But you know what I mean? Sometimes people aren't always that proactive. So I think it's a good idea to have, and I don't even necessarily have this myself. The closest I have to this is that every single coaching session or group mentoring session, right? Was this valuable? If so, what was most valuable? I always ask. So in my journal here, I actually have a collection of notes on what people find valuable about working with me. Does that make sense? So now I
Mm-hmm.
could just take those notes that I've written and weave that into a marketing message,
Yes.
right? If
And,
people said to me, Jeff, oh, I love the clarity. And then I joke with them, I call it clucidity. Jeff, I love the process. I love that you definitely have a step one, step two, step three that you're going through, but it felt authentic and organic. Jeff, I like how action oriented we are. Jeff, I like that there's homework. Jeff, I feel the accountability. Jeff, I'm more motivated, right? These are things I know that people feel when they work with me. So now I can capture these and embed them into my marketing message. But it's not just how they feel when they work with me or what they get, right? But it, like, it's like, hey, intimate features like, geez, you're going to get a set of behavioral assessments. You're going to have a same link to schedule every time, a same link to join on Zoom every time. You'll have the option of on phone or in person. You'll have unlimited check-ins and Jeff's cell phone. Like, I have to know what people are going to get. I have to know the features. Coaching isn't a great example because it's basically just conversation for the most part, right? But what if I was selling? What if I was selling?
Sorry.
Go ahead. Patty, go ahead.
No, I think you really hit on it for, coaching or nutritional coaching, for example, to continually survey your customers. I think that's really important.
Yeah. When it's a service, you're right, Patty. It is a little more evasive, right? To know for sure, like it's different, like selling a product than a service. Right. If I was selling a computer, I'd have to tell you about the processor speed. I'd have to tell you about the screen. I'd have to tell you about the camera. I'd have to tell you about the LEDs, the keyboard, the warranty, the graphical user interface, the shortcut techniques on the keyboard. I'd have to tell you about software size or integrations and like, oh my God, right? By the way, now you know why I don't sell too many products, right? Anyway, I digress. I'm a communications guy. But with a service, sometimes, like, here's the other thing, the curse of knowledge. This comes up somewhere else in the book, I bet. You don't want to be victim of the curse of knowledge. Just because I know what coaching is and how it works doesn't mean the other person does. So I got to be as clear with them as possible about what they can expect to increase their chances of converting from prospect to client. That's marketing's job. It's a shared responsibility, I should say, between marketing and sales. But have you ever been dealing with a salesperson and you ask a question about the product and they don't know the answer?
Yes.
That's not good, is it?
No.
Right? So
it's very off-putting.
yeah. So the idea for you salespeople out there, make sure that you understand the marketing piece. Make sure you understand the marketing messages. Make sure you know what questions people are going to ask, right? So believe in your stuff, know your stuff. Believe in your stuff, know your stuff is what I'm getting at here. 8:27 p.m. We're doing Get a Klu in 52. This is another installment for 52 is what we're going to do all year long. And we're in the I'm sorry, I take that back. We're in the marketing section. We started with communication, now marketing. We're going to move on in 4 or 5 weeks from now. We're going to actually, no, 7 weeks from now, because we got 6 more tips in this section. There's two extra tips in marketing to give me a total of 52 for the year. And so I'm joined as always by Charlie and Patty. You're so gracious in coming on board and making this interactive for me. So let me go ahead and reach out with another last call. We're inching towards last call for comments or questions on tonight's tip, which is to know your stuff. Believe in your stuff and know the features of your products and services. Anything else for tonight, you guys? Not that there has to be, I'm fine to do an abbreviation.
You know what's coming from Charlie.
Oh yeah, Charlie. Are you about to add? Is that it?
And you owe me last week's one, so I need 2 cookies.
No, man, last week's one. Didn't we see? I don't know if this comes about. This one's me being totally silly, but are you ready? Here's one. If you insist on wiping your butt and blowing your nose with the same tissue, I'm waiting for him to write it down, Patty. This is the pregnant pause for note takers. If you insist on wiping your butt and blowing your nose with the same tissue, please blow your nose first. There's a Kluby snack, right? And what else came about this week? Let's look at my notes and see if anything emerged organically. You already got the one about complaining and explaining, right? Charlie?
Yes. Yes, I got complaining and
Yeah, the
explaining.
person that is complaining is committed to hanging on to the problem, but the person who's explaining is committed to solving their problem.
Got that one. I got that one.
Yeah, and I don't have all of the I don't have all the language flushed out yet, but here's the Klubi snack for this week, right? Is as a world-class coach, I often think about all of the unsmelled roses.
Okay.
Yeah, so basically that Klubi snack is about the achiever that doesn't stop and smell roses, the achiever that's always beating themselves up, putting pressure on themselves for the next thing. Maybe they were abused and beaten up when they were a kid, and so now they think nothing's ever good enough, and they're accomplishing all of this stuff, but they're overwhelmed and they're stressed all the time, and they're filling up their calendar with everything because they're go 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 go, and it's just as a world-class coach, I have a lot of empathy for the unsmelled roses. And I guess what I want people to know is that in coaching with me, you're going to learn to celebrate. You're going to learn to be joyful. You're going to learn to share wins. You're going to learn to pat yourself on the back. You're going to learn to brag in addition to the cry and everything else. So there you go. I'll offer that to you for now. Is as a world-class coach is really empathetic with all of the unsmelled roses. However you'd like.
Got you.
It's a pretty good one. You like that, Patty?
I loved it.
Yeah, we said it. We talked about that on Klu's Ooze last time.
Yeah. That's what happens. Like things emerge during the week, and I'm ready for you, Charlie.
I know that.
All right.
I know what to tap into.
So yeah, there's a couple things going on here. Let me switch this around again and just let people know that in Get a Klu in 52, I'm really excited about this version of the book. One, because I cleaned up a bunch of things that I wasn't happy with in this version. Done is better than perfect. So thank God this came out and that it came out when it did. And it's been a wonderful thing for me. But having gone through it with such a detailed read once a week, last year, I saw things I wanted to improve. And now I'm really happy with this. I'm getting compliments on this. One of the things I'm really excited about is that it's got a preview chapter, right? There's a bonus chapter at the end that previews the next book that I'm working on called The Integrity Game. And it's not just a book, it's a keynote, it's a coaching program, it's a coaching training program. I'm going to be referring to The Integrity Game as a comprehensive personal and professional growth methodology program, curriculum, etc. So I'm really excited about this. The draft of chapter 2 is done. And the woman that I'm working with on the writing of it, we brainstormed and ideated around chapter 3. So that's in play. And the characters are developing and the plot line is moving along. And there's a couple tips and surprises that we're going to be embedding here and there. And I'm just really excited about it. Shout out, if you're listening, to Michelle Malo, who not only got the book, read the book, but then also wrote me a beautiful email about the book, and then went on, even beyond that, and shot a video testimonial that I put onto the website, Get a Klu in 52. I really appreciate you taking the time to do that, but also, she's right. The book's good. Get it. It's really good. And The Integrity Game is something that I really excited about promoting. So this is just $20.20, last year's price, if you get it on Amazon. If you're interested in supporting Charity for Hope, which is the charity run by a client of mine, Vipul Dayal, then $50 will get you a specially signed copy of the book, and all of that money will go to the charity. So if you're interested in that, just contact me directly. The last thing I want to let you guys know is in the name of shameless plugs, is the Klubrary is getting a little bit more sophisticated. I'm able to sell books on the Klubrary now. So if you have a book that you want me to sell or that you want listed for sale on the Klubrary as I drive traffic to it, let me know. But there's some freebies up at the top, including 12 Klubi snack videos. And then there's some affordable content down the side. And then at the bottom, you could get this book and you could get my client's book, Give Your Way to the Top. This is by Vipul Dayal, who runs Charity for Hope. He's a superstar. Really proud to have supported him and helped him with this project. So right now, these two books are available on my website, theklubrary.com. If you have a book in personal and professional growth that you want listed alongside mine and Vipul's, contact me and we'll talk about getting your book available on my website as well. Otherwise, take a look at the affordable and free content that you can find on the Klubrary.com. Charlie or Patty, if you wouldn't mind typing that into comments, www.theklubrary.com. I would be grateful for that. And otherwise, I'm ready to sign off and seal it with a kiss if anybody's ready. Patty's like, I'm typing, Jeff, I'm typing. There it is. Thank you, Patty. Theklubrary.com. Check it out. Let me know what you think about that. If you have any comments or feedback or questions, you could also become an affiliate and get your own links to my content in case you want to promote the content for a commission. It's not multi-level marketing. It's just an affiliate program if you want to promote the content. And I'll be grateful. So thanks for chiming in. Those of you that have seen us on the Facebook side, Charlie and Patty coming in on Zoom and making it interactive for me every week is just something I'm really, really, really grateful for. And for those of you that are watching sometime down the road in the future, I hope that you got some value out of this, and let us know if you have any comments or questions or anything else that you'd like me to address on Sunday nights. Otherwise, I'm ready to sign off and seal it with a kiss. Get a clue in 52. Signing off. Here we go, Patty. And here we go for you guys. All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll see you next week.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
Coach
Have
Jeff.
a good week.
Love you. Thank
Love
you.
you guys. Thank you so
Have a
much.
good one.